All right, we should be live now. Let's wave. Welcome to userlist.io webinar space. And we have an amazing roundtable of experts, and there is one still joining us shortly, which is Val. So, little bit technical details. This webinar is getting recorded, so in case you need to go, the recording will be available at the same link, and we'll also send the follow-up notes. There is a wonderful Q&A section on the bottom. It's called Ask a Question. And feel free to drop in your questions there. And now I'm introducing the amazing Claire Suellentrop, who is the co-founder of userlist.io and also the marketing brain behind that. And she'll be curating and moderating today's panel. Hey, Claire.
So yeah, there's Jane and myself are two of the user list co-founders. Our third co-founder, I believe, may be in attendance as well. And joining us, which we're so grateful that they've done today, are the two folks you also see on camera, and then a third one who's restarting her browser and joining in a moment. But Brian and Logan, thank you both for being here. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and talk a bit about what you both do. But the main theme tying us all together here is we're all super passionate about customer communication, and these folks are experts in that space. So Brian, you want to jump in?
I'll actually have Logan go because Jane's frozen, Logan's frozen. I'm going to restart real quick. I'll be back in a second. Logan, it's on you, man.
You go first. Hey, my name is Logan Herr. I've worked in the marketing automation space the past 3 years. Most recently at a company called Autopilot, which is customer journey marketing that's as easy as drawing on a whiteboard. While I was working there, Brian and I became friends. We started a consulting business called Ottomate, which is my current gig. And we basically just help business owners automate all those little touch points, those experiences they want to create that just help people become great, amazing promoters and customers, and then build it all out in a long life cycle journey. Yeah, that's probably not a great explanation, but like.
That was good, Logan. Hi, I'm Brian. I worked at Autopilot with Logan for 3 years. I did content marketing there and did content marketing, all the blogging, all that kind of stuff, but then learned about lifecycle marketing, customer journey marketing, whatever, market automation, whatever cool industry term we want to call it, and got to see a lot of businesses, how businesses do it, made some frameworks, figured out a process. Logan and I went into consulting stuff together. And then in doing that, ended up connecting with a company called OpenDoor, where I'm doing lifecycle marketing. Now we buy and sell a bunch of houses, and I'm building like a big puzzle. So it's fun.
Which is pretty cool. I think we may have either lost Jane or she just stopped sharing her screen. But either way, thank you guys both for being here. And for everyone who's joining in, thank you as well for being here. We know everyone's got work and life and other stuff going on. But the goal with all of us connecting today, and hopefully our final guest, Val Geisler, if she's able to join in also, is to talk a little bit about two main problems. Oh, yay!
Yay!
Hi, Val! We're so glad to see you.
Hi, everybody.
Great. Well, this is excellent. So before I dive into like actual topics, Val, we're so glad you're here. Can you just very, very briefly tell us about what you do and what you're all about?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Val Geisler. Sorry I was late. I kept trying to sign in as Claire. I just really like Claire. So I'm B now, and I'm an email marketing strategist, and I basically live and breathe email, from strategy to copywriting, and everything about it. I write onboarding teardowns on my blog that you might have seen, and I see some of my friends in the chat, so it's good to be here.
So I've learned a ton in terms of both email campaign strategy and also overall customer lifecycle strategy. I've learned a ton from all of you folks. So thank you all three for being here. the goal for today is to basically talk about two problems that Jane and our co-founder Benedict and I have noticed as we onboard customers to UserList. And for those who are not familiar with UserList, it's an event or like behavior-based communication platform for SaaS, for users of a SaaS product. So if you're an owner of a SaaS company, then UserList would be how you communicate with folks once they sign up for your product, hopefully go through a trial and become paying customers. But as we've onboarded SaaS companies to UserList, we've seen kind of one of two situations. Either a founder of a SaaS product has like a simple like welcome and onboarding email sequence in place, and that's been running for a while, and they're ready to get a bit more sophisticated, either by optimizing that, testing that sequence, or by planning out further sequences along the customer lifecycle. But customer lifecycle is big and hairy and overwhelming, and folks are like, I don't even know where to start. I'm just going to go build more product. Or that's really a best case scenario. A lot of folks haven't even gotten that far. So they've got like maybe a welcome email in place, but even writing an onboarding campaign feels overwhelming because it's just, what do you talk about? Do you push features? Do you try to get people on a call? What does that look like? And Val specifically is like ultimate expert in planning out onboarding emails. And Val, I would love to chat with you a bit about what a SaaS founder can do to write a relatively simple but still strong onboarding campaign. And then Logan and Brian, I would love to hear from you two about the work you've done building out those lifecycle emails, or building out at least a plan for what types of emails a customer might get over a lifecycle. And when we get to that point, I have a visual model I can share that is totally heavily influenced by Brian and Logan's work. But the hope for today is that if you've got a product and you're thinking, I know I should be sending more emails to my users and I don't know where to start, this will give you at least a couple of places that you can dig in. So with that said, there's already been questions flowing in that are super related to all of these topics, which is good. It means everyone's in the right place. But I think a decent way to kick that off would be maybe tossing this one to you, Val, because your focus is so much in onboarding. But someone did ask in the chat, if we're only sending a basic welcome email and we're sending some transactional emails, but we do realize we need to write onboarding, where do we even start? Like what's step one of a good onboarding email sequence?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have a little bit of an echo. Is there an echo on your end?
You're sounding okay over here.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm seeing and hearing everyone. Okay.
Okay, good. Oh, Brett has an echo. Yeah, everyone else hears an echo. Shoot. I'm even wearing headphones. Oh, now it's gone. Yeah, it did, Ben, didn't it? Magic. It's because you need to hear what I have to say twice. Okay, yeah. Thanks, guys. Who knows? Technology. We all work on the internet, right?
Right.
So setting up onboarding, you have your welcome email, like, hey, thanks for purchasing, and then you kind of disappear other than transactional emails. And it's awesome that you're aware that that needs to be rectified, because really the most important thing to remember is that your brand new customer is not yet quite convinced that they truly need your product, and continuing to convince them of that is an ongoing process. And I know Brian and Logan can speak to that, but truly that first 14, 30 days using your product is really crucial that you build a good relationship with your customer, because they're still testing things out. I mean, you think about anything new that you do, even like I started at a new gym recently, and it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do a month and see, even though I told you guys I'm going to pay, every single month. We'll see. Turns out I like it, so yay. But, you want to make sure you do that with your customers. I think the thing to remember is that it's not your features. It's not the like features of your product and all of the amazing things your product can do that brought your customer to the product in the first place. Your customer has a deeper need for the product. And that's what you want to know. So almost everyone I talk to, I say, do you talk to your customers? Do you interview your customers? Oh yeah, we talk to our customers every single day. We, we get tickets from our customers. We talk to them about how our features work. Oh, do you actually talk to your customers about why they chose your product, what they're trying to do with their business, their goals for their business, what their needs are? Because there's always a deeper why to why they chose your product. And when you know what that is, you can speak to that over and over and over again in welcome emails or in that onboarding sequence. So there's a lot of different techniques that you can use, and people always ask me about timing, like, should I send an email every day? Should I send an email once a week? None of that really matters until you know why your customers chose your product in the first place. That always comes down to customer interviews and even some surveys and finding out what's going on for your customers. And you can then take that information, and it's amazing. Your customers kind of write your onboarding emails for you. They point out those key features that drew them in. You might think, oh, we have this really cool feature that we want to send an email about. But if your customers weren't drawn to the product for that feature, then it's not worth talking about in that early on in the relationship. You can save that for further on down the pipeline. There's more emails to write beyond onboarding. But getting them onboarded is talking to them about those key features that are the reason they came to you in the first place.
So would that be something like, actually, Jane and I were just on a call with one of our early customers this morning, and he mentioned he and his co-founder are interviewing their customers right now to kind of improve their sequence. And what they realized was, like our current sequence tells people, check out this feature, do this thing next, invite these users, because it's trying to get them to feel successful. But at the end of the day, what they realized in their interviews is no one is signing up thinking, okay, how do I invite my users? Okay, how do I like achieve this within the product? What they're thinking is, they sell software for event organizers, which is a really stressful job, and you're dealing with lots of people and lots of moving parts. And what their customers signed up for was wanting to have weekends off, wanting to be able to read a book, wanting to be able to not work 24/7. And so they're now changing their welcome email to focus on, hey, we're going to send you a couple of steps to help you get to that outcome. So by the time you get all of our emails, you'll be able to read a book this weekend. You won't have to work all Saturday and Sunday. So is that the angle you're suggesting taking? Like basically selling that end result first and then backing into product stuff?
Yeah, totally. So it's like nobody signs up for software so that we have more to-dos, right? Like we don't sign up for things. We don't turn over money for things so that we can have more things to do on our list. The idea is to really cut back on what we have to do. And so if you can say like that event organizer software, hey, let's get you 4 hours back on your Saturday. Or let's set a goal that relates back to their key reason for trying the software in the first place. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we're going to find those, we're going to give you 4 hours back of your life, or we're going to give you 2 days back, or whatever it is, some kind of metric that they can then look back and say, if I do all these steps, I'm going to achieve that goal that I came here for in the first place. It is never so that they can sign up and then have all these things to do now. I need to invite users. I need to check out this feature. I need to upload a CSV. Nobody wants to do any of that stuff. They want something else. Find out what that something else is, and then write your emails to that.
Yeah,
Clay's got it. Begin with the end. Yeah, benefit. Yeah. And we're a product people, so everybody's like all excited about our features and our product, and that's great. And you can be excited about them, but think about why your customer is excited about them. You are not your customer.
And you mentioned also doing some customer research to like figure those things out. If I'm a founder and I know kind of not concretely, but I know generally why people use it, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to do customer research. Like, should I send a survey? Should I like get on the phone with a couple of people? What do you think that looks like?
Yes.
Yes.
Both. Yes, both. So, and there's always like, well, who do I talk to? There's kind of three different types of customers I like to talk to. That is your high value customers. So the people who are your ideal customers, who've been around the longest, who maybe have like the highest customer lifetime value. So you want to talk to those guys because they're your core, like they're keeping your lights on, literally. So you want to talk to them. The other two categories are customers who trialed your product and then churned. So who never converted, customers who trialed but never converted, because you want to find out why, what they came for in the first place, what they did not get that they were looking for. And then you want to talk to the third is kind of in the middle. So those are your highest potential for growth. Most products have like different pricing plans. And so you can kind of look at, okay, well, I am a membership software, and we have, if you have up to 1,000 members, 1,000 to 5,000 members, and 5,000 and above. So you want to look at people who are just about to jump onto that next plan and talk to those people too, because they're showing a large amount of growth, right? They have a higher potential for growth. When they're invested in your product, they can jump into the next price category, gives them a higher customer lifetime value. You're more likely to retain them. So, talking to those customers, it does a couple of things. You build a relationship with them so they feel connected to your software in a way that is a little bit different, more personal. And then you also get those benefits. You get those pieces of information you're looking for. So it's a bit of a win-win when you do the interviews. I always go in requesting interviews and then survey as a backup, right? So like I request interviews from a ton of people. Like 5 of them say yes, and then I and a bunch more. And I always send a survey as a backup. Great, you don't want to do an interview? Totally fine. Here's a survey. And then I send a survey to a whole bunch of other people too.
Quick question, honestly, that I would love to throw to everyone who's on screen. So Logan and Brian as well. One person asked, can you address B2B as well as B2C on this topic? And I'm curious, do you guys think this applies to B2B products as well as B2C? I would vote yes.
Logan is like, yes.
Duh. No, I'm kidding. It's not really a duh question.
No.
Well, at the end of the day, every business has a customer's life cycle. And the big thing that Brian and I like to do is to help people map out that life cycle. And we have 5 specific phases. They're a little different between B2B versus B2C, but it breaks down to a stranger, a lead, then a customer, and then a repeat customer, and then a promoter. And so in between each of those stages, what we're trying to do is identify what are the little nudges that you can automate in order to get them from one stage to the other. Obviously, for B2C, the customer to repeat customer makes a little more sense. But from a B2B standpoint, it could be an expansion or a renewal would make them a repeat customer. And in the stage from becoming a stranger to a lead in a B2C case, that's maybe an abandoned cart. And more like a B2B case would be transferring, qualifying that lead and sending it over to sales, automating things like that. So a framework for both lifecycle marketing does apply to B2B and B2C. I would just say every business is a little bit different. So going through, at least having a framework to design out what the full life cycle is, just kind of helps add a little more direction when you're trying to build the machine. It's more like a recipe that you can kind of change and evolve over time.
Right. And I did, I hope I shared it with all 3 of you, and I can screen share here as well so everyone on the call can see it. But Brian was kind enough to show me some of those, like, I guess, lifecycle models that you made for some of your clients for Ottomate, which were brilliant and informed a lot of the work that I've been doing with userless customers, right? Helping them figure out, okay, once your onboarding sequence is written, then what do you do? How do you build deeper relationships and either upsell or get referrals from your existing customers? I can share the version of that I've put together, and then I'd love to hear from you guys, like, how would a founder walk through it, right? Like, where do they get started with it? Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds great.
Okay, cool. Give me 1 second and I'll get my screen share prepped.
I actually think there's a lot more opportunity in B2B while you're doing that, Claire, I was just going to say, like, there's the onboarding is a bit of a longer process typically. So there's more opportunities to connect with people, and there's more chances to interact. Like if you have a demo and then a sales call and then a follow-up, like there's all these little touch points along the way in B2B that you don't necessarily get in B2C, where the decision is a lot faster. So I think there's even more opportunity for deeper onboarding in B2B.
Yeah, and while you're pulling that up, Claire, about this whole idea of the customer journey. So Logan and I came up with this framework in response to believing that the funnel is not enough, in the sense where like we need to forget the funnel instead of just thinking top, middle, bottom. What gets lost in the mix is all of the retention stuff. Like if you notice, retention is usually thrown on as an add-on to the funnel. We need to do the funnel plus retention. And so we were like, you know what, let's just scrap that whole way of thinking and think of it as like, what is the holistic customer journey? And I call it the universal customer journey of stranger to lead to customer to repeat customer to promoter. And like Logan was saying, it's going to look different for every business. But at a high level, creatively, strategically, you just ask, how do we get more people from stranger to lead? How do we get more people from lead to customer? And part of that is you have to define the key event that moves people to the next stage. So stranger to lead, like you get their email, simple stuff. Customer, they buy. Repeat customer, they buy again. Promoter, they refer to you a friend. They have like a high NPS score. So you have those key events that move people from stage to stage. And then you build what we call an automation blueprint, like what Claire is going to pull up right now. That's all of the automations you have to create in response to those key events. And then that'll automate all of those different parts of your business. And it's usually getting to a V1, testing it. We can talk about that more in a little bit, but the foundation is changing the way that we think, from just like funnel thinking to customer journey thinking, figuring out the key events, and then making an automation blueprint like Claire's going to show in a minute.
Right. And I want to, right now I've clicked the button that says share screen, and I've got a blueprint or model up, but I'm not sure. Can you guys see that? Or am I just looking at it by myself? You can't see it? Okay. All right. Give me a sec. Stop. Let's see. There's me. Now, how do I get rid of me? I'll just do this once more. Like you said, Val, we all work on the internet, but
there can only be 4 guests or 3 guests.
Or 3 guests.
That's why Jane had to leave, because I came.
Oh, so so does one of us have to leave? 3 guests on the screen. Shoot. Well, I know Jane's like, no, that's how I feel too. Go ahead, Val, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, she just linked to how many people can I invite on the screen.
So maybe, okay. Sorry, everyone, brainstorming quickly. Who should we vote off the island? You know what? It can be URL. There should be one. I have like the PDF open. But if you give me just a second, I can actually go find the link to it that I have.
Sweet. And I just want to emphasize, from those different stages, just asking that question. How do we get a stranger to lead? How do we get a customer, repeat customer? It seems really simple, but it's like, because every business is different, you know the unique nuances of your audience, their pain points, their problems, the events that make your product sticky and compelling. And so you just need to start there with that high level question, and then use your own creativity and knowledge of your business to figure it out. It's not a super prescriptive thing for every business. Like, you have to just ask that question and then figure it out for the different stages for you.
And once I've got the link, I'm getting this ready to share right now, and I'll drop the link into the chat so everyone can have access. But what I thought was so cool about this recipe or this framework that Brian and Logan, you two came up with, was it just, when I think about as the owner of a product, when I think about all the emails that could be sent, there's the welcome email, there's the onboarding emails, there's product nudges to like get someone to use different features. There's, at some point I should be asking that person to refer friends. Maybe I should ask them to leave a review. Like there's just so much that it feels kind of like a big jumble. And I thought that this was excellent because it gives me a way to kind of look at them holistically and say, okay, onboarding emails, check. All right, now I'm going to go to the next stage. Okay, product nudges, check, and so on and so forth. As opposed to it being this big, overwhelming like tangle of emails I could be sending. There we go. Okay, so I've just got the link. It's a link to a PDF in my Google Drive, and anyone who's got this link should be able to view it. So I have just put that in the chat, and I know this isn't the best experience because we're going to be like talking about something together that everyone's looking at separately, but it's maybe the best that we can do for now. Technology in 2018 still.
I think it's better because people can refer back to it later.
Yeah. So, Logan and Brian, do you two have that open as well? It's basically it's an abbreviated version of what you build for your customers because you do the marketing side as well. Whereas since Userlist is focused on communicating with existing users, we've chosen to start from account sign up. And then move from there. But like I was saying a minute ago, what I thought was so cool about this kind of map, so to speak, is I can identify sequence 1 that I want to write out, sequence 2, sequence 3, and so on. And it just, to me, as I've talked to different SaaS founders, showing this to them has made them think, oh, okay, there's a ton more we could be doing, but we can break it down into little chunks. We don't have to go off into the woods and write like 100 emails this month and test them all at one time. We can do our onboarding sequence and then sequence number 2 and 3 and so on.
Totally.
Okay, I'm glad other people can see this as well. So what I'd love to know is for you as you've worked with your clients through Ottomate, and now Brian, I know you've been working on this with OpenDoor as well. What are the, I don't know, maybe this is too broad. Maybe it's too difficult to say this because it's different for every business, but what are the details I should be thinking about as I start to tackle these different campaigns one by one? Like product nudges, for example, like how do you know which things you should nudge your customers toward? Or your free users if you want to upgrade that, or you want them to upgrade? Or is that just too hairy because it's different for every single company?
Yeah, I think I want to speak to this at a high level real quick. So one of the first companies I worked with was a company named Karani. It's a CRM for nonprofits, started by my friend Matt Stauffer. He wrote this book on Laravel. I have no idea what that is. I know that other devs love it though. And it was just me and him. And I was using, at the time, this was like 5-7 years ago. I was using Intercom. I set up our onboarding stuff. And what I realized doing all of that is I was like, all of these automation pieces, for solo SaaS founders or for really small like product companies, this helps you operate at a like punch above your weight class. You know what I mean? Like you do the upfront work. And then from there, if you look at the diagram, there's only like 9 different automations you have to set up. So like if you set up these 9 automations, you will have plugged every leak where people could potentially fall off. You will have spoken to people at key points in their customer experience. And it just requires like doing that upfront work. So like Claire was saying, you can look at this, like there's 9 you got to do. So make one, check it off, make one, check it off, make one, check it off. And recommendation on the best place to start, or actually this is the way to use technology to like not have to hire people, and to really scale it well. And I know Userlist is working on a lot of templates and everything. So they're going to make this really easy for everybody. But my whole point is once you set it up, like you just have so much value that you're going to be adding to your customers. And it's because you did the upfront work.
And when you're mapping this out with your clients, have you found that, okay, for example, what's a good one to look at here? So paid subscriber journey, for example, after someone goes through onboarding, and then then they've gone through a couple product nudges where you're trying to get them to find the value in a paid version. When you're going through this process with your clients, are there certain questions you ask them to help them figure out what those nudges should be? Is it like, okay, do you have the data to tell what your customers are supposed to do to get there? Or have you two done any conducting of that customer research to figure it out? Or are you pulling from analytics tools? Like, I know Logan is the brains behind the actual tech integration. So you're looking at different analytics tools to tell what those sequences should look like.
Sure. Well, I guess I can get into the tech side of it a bit because it does intermesh super well with the whole automation blueprint. At some point, you're going to have to figure out where is the activity taking place the customer's doing that can be recorded in some form, like some database or source of truth that we can use to automate other journeys. So as a part to building out the automation blueprint, we really recommend also mapping out your entire tech stack. That's everything from your CRM, your website, any analytics you have, and literally mind map it. Go onto a whiteboard and draw out every single little piece you have. Like we have Salesforce here, we've got our marketing automation tool here. This all goes to like a Redshift database, and then actually draw the arrows. Like it's only coming from this direction. It doesn't write the other way, and then break out what's being transferred from one system to another. Like the more granular you can get there, the better bird's eye view you're going to have of your entire tech stack. And honestly, we typically find customers going in and saying, oh, well, we don't need this anymore. Like that's not connected to anything. We should really find a replacement tool for that can speak well to other tools.
Interesting.
And so I do think that's really important. I think tools that you kind of like seamlessly transfer data from one place to another across, unified language like Segment or Imparticle. These are very good tools to kind of like insert those product nudges when somebody is doing something within your product. Like I think Typeform does a really good job of this. If anyone's used that form building tool, where it's the best, right? So inside of Typeform, one thing that they do is they actually have all of it's a freemium tool. People can sign up for free and they have to save by putting in their email address. When they go to a feature that's part of the Pro or the Pro Plus plan, it's right in there and it'll pop up and say, oh, to unlock that, like you can trial it for 30 days or you can just pay us right now. That information, could be sent from Segment to a marketing automation database to say they opened and saw that little splash screen and they didn't convert. So maybe let's wait a little bit because they had some interest. They wanted to use, say, like logic jumps or something. And then give them some information, like maybe a help center article or a case study of how somebody's used logic jumps in order to do that. But that has to all be stitched together in kind of like the lead to customer part of the lifecycle blueprint. And then also in the tech stack, you have to know where the data is being captured and how does it get to the place where we're communicating to it. So that's kind of an example, a real world example. You could sign up for Typeform right now and actually go do that. And you'll probably get an email from them saying, hey, we noticed you checked out logic jumps. Here's how to use it.
They don't do that. No.
Oh, man.
I'm a Typeform customer and I've never gotten those emails. I'm like, they should do that.
Well,
yeah, to just piggyback. Oh,
go for it.
Okay, to piggyback on that, it's because the reason all that tool stack and data flow stuff is important is because to your customers, every interaction is just you want it to be one cohesive experience. So you have your customer support database, you have the events happening on your website, you have the in-app messages you want to show, you have the emails you want to send. And for a lot of us, a lot of this data is living in different places. And so you have to find a way to get it all into like user list or whatever you're using so that you don't send what we call like oops emails, where it's like, oh, hey, I'm already a paying subscriber. Why are you sending me this thing to join for the first time? So that's the reason behind this text tool stack thinking, is getting everything to the right place. So you have every behavior like a person has done connected to their profile, and then you can send them like accurate messages.
Sorry, I was going to say something, but realized I was on mute. So Val, were you mentioning they don't take advantage of that right now? Is that what you were saying? Like,
I haven't seen an email from Typeform about that. And like, that's a really quick win, right? If you have a freemium model and you have pro features that you already have their email address, you already know when they're trying to access pro features and they're not converting, then that's a quick win to 2 days later send them an email talking about that very feature that they were trying to use, sharing a case study, giving them a video walkthrough tutorial, because maybe they just like didn't have time to dig into I think I want to use this. No, I'll like piece together a way around it for right now because I just need to get this survey sent out. But now 2 days later, I have some time to think about like, oh, I could do logic jumps next time. And maybe I do want to use a pro account, and what would that look like? And so even just one email, right? Like that's a huge opportunity for Typeform to gather a bunch of new customers onto their pro accounts.
There's definitely been times that I've needed a Typeform Pro account for a very, very specific reason. And I'll typically realize that by digging around and hitting a paywall of some kind. But I won't have time at that point to like really explore and see if it works. So that's
why Clay just mentioned in the chat that there's a long delay. If you're sending an email between when they're thinking about doing something and then you send an email, even like I mentioned 2 days later, that it seems like a pop-up tip might be faster because it's in system. And I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. In Typeform's example, they have this pop-up that says, hey, that's a pro feature. There's an opportunity there where they could personalize that pop-up a bit based on the feature. Here's where you can learn more about logic jumps before you jump in and make the decision. So they could certainly have that there. But most of the time, following up with that email when it gives them a chance to have the space. It's being in the product. You're in a different mindset than when you're in your inbox. And so even just shifting the way that you think a little bit, when you're in the product, you're like in getting things done mode. And maybe when you're in your inbox, you're in inbox zero mode, but you're in a different mind frame and you're not thinking about like this form I need to get completed and sent out to all my subscribers. You can actually think through that feature a little bit more and when you might use it the next time.
And what's interesting is there's the assumption that we have everything that the people are looking for, but we could also not, like in our support docs. One email that we did at Autopilot was pretty successful is we put our tracking code for email automation into our support center. And so when someone searched the support center, we'd send them an email like 15 minutes later saying, hey, did you find what you were looking for? And that led to a lot of really insightful replies because we would find out that not every time people found what they were looking for. So to inform your support doc creation, the self-service of people helping themselves solve their own problems, you could do something like that via email that they can reply to, and then you can update your docs, and then people can solve their problem themselves the next time.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge win because not only do you get a better sense of what information do we need to have in our help docs, but also what's the language people actually use to describe what they're struggling with or what feature they're looking for. So you can better message match how you describe your product versus how your customers are actually thinking about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
There are a couple of more like some technical, some just really tactical questions folks had for all three of you that I would love to ask. Some of them being just about tool stack, right? So one of them was when you're mapping out these sequences, whether it's the Lifecycle, like the model that Brian and Logan, you two use, or when you're writing out campaigns, what are the tools you're using? Is it Google Docs? Are you in AirStory? Is there a wireframing tool that you use? Do you just get together and use a whiteboard? Like, what does that look like tactically?
I'll say personally, like I'm still a sucker for a whiteboard. You can see there's one on my bedroom wall right now. It's sadly blank, but there's no better tool than just like kind of writing it all out there. When I want to make it look more presentable, I use a tool called Xmind, which is really fast. Has a bunch of little shortcuts in it. But that helps a lot with building that out. When you want to break it down a little bit further, it doesn't hurt to have a Google Doc, because you can do things like take screenshots, pop it in there, actually add the copy for the emails that you want to put in, and people can comment on it. That's when you're more in the collaboration stage. But when you're going to the creative stage, you don't want any boundaries. Like, I'm even at the point where I don't use paper with lines on it because it tells me where I need to write. But if a whiteboard or a blank sheet of paper, I can just draw everything out on. And there's no restrictions there. So it helps me kind of like get into a mindset of a blank canvas, basically. I can create whatever I want here because it's all brand new. But I do it with a framework of that automation blueprint and the customer journey framework.
Did you say that one you mentioned, Xmind? Is that what it's called?
Xmind, yeah, I've been using it for years. There's definitely other tools out there, probably more web-based stuff, but I've just got like the muscle memory down for all their little shortcuts. So
yeah. Oh, thanks, Will. Okay, so and there's a link to a real-time board. I'm secretly taking these down for myself because I haven't found a digital one that I love yet. I'm also a sucker for just like white, like blank paper or a whiteboard if it's available, but that's not as helpful when you're on a video call. So
yeah, I've always worked at this with like a remote team mindset, and so you know, whiteboards make it tough online. So I've loved Lucidchart recently. It's a really basic tool. I'm going to check out real-time boards. Thanks, guys. But yeah, Lucidchart's really, what I like the most about it is you can really set up whatever layout you want. You can do a landscape or vertical. You can, and it just kind of is a never ending. So like you create one page, if your chart goes down past it, it just makes a whole new page for you. So you don't have to worry about like running out of space on your whiteboard because it just keeps making more board.
Adapts for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just draw pretty pictures on pieces of paper.
And then take a picture of them.
And then take a picture of it and put it in the email. But for actually creating the content, I mean, I'm not consistent. I'll write stuff on paper or brainstorm stuff in a Google Doc, but what's helpful about doing it in your automation tool and like the emails and in-app messages is you'll see what it actually looks like in the real world. Yeah. And that's where that context makes all the difference in the world. So like getting to that point as soon as possible, I think is really important.
I write my emails in Air Stories because they have a tab feature and I can tab through each email and be able to see them all together. I also like Air Story because you can gather research and data points and use those over and over again. Just drag them and drop them into your emails. But for, yeah, like Brian said, when it comes down to it, I put everything into the tool that you're using, test it, send it through emails. You know, you want to see what it's actually going to look like on the customer side.
There's another one that's relatively like tactical, and we started to have this conversation right before the crowdcast started. How do you analyze whether an existing email or sequence is a success or failure if your volume is too small to split test, right? So open rates don't say a whole lot about how engaging the email was. Is it just a case of looking at click-through rates? Like how do you do that when you've only got a handful of users who are coming through every month? Or do you think it's just too early to split test? Do you do something else?
I would definitely start with click rates, right? So you want to see, are they taking action? And so even if it's not, I'm trying to think of an example where there wouldn't be a click and yet there's an action for them to perform. But if you can integrate a click into your emails, that's a really good way. So like if your email, log into the app and just that link, head into, are they, you know, again, like the other side, are they actually following through on that thing that you asked them to do, and collecting that data and then having like a follow-on email if they aren't. So I would definitely start with click links. Yeah, it's tricky when you have a small sample size when you're trying to split test. But I think also, I don't know who asked this question and like the story behind their product, but
Their context, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times I find that people jump to split testing and measuring results and data and the second half when they haven't even implemented an email in the first place.
Totally.
So like, let's just get something there, and then we can start pulling in data and iterating from there. But I think a lot of people worry about the split testing or the sample size, and that's like their excuse to not do anything. So not saying anyone here is making excuses, but I have seen that where it's like, I don't know if I can even get started because I don't have a big enough sample size. Yes, you do. You have customers, you have users, send emails.
Just start there.
Yeah. So like I 100% agree, Val. Like, I think the biggest win for people is like, if you look at the blueprint that Claire sent over, I mean, the biggest win is fill in all the gaps that you already have.
Yes.
Before you start A/B testing. Because think of it as a hospitality thing. Like, you want to receive people well into your product experience and make the most with what you have. It's really hard to get people to come in, sign up for a free trial, become a customer. And so if you focus all your time on the front end, you're going to miss all the opportunity that you have with people who already said yes to you. So having people go from customer, repeat customer, or finding out, getting reviews after people have been paying for a while and figuring out people are happy or not. If you just set up those automations, that'll be so insightful for the rest of your business. Like, so my recommendation is always like set up your initial V1 machine with like your 9 automations or whatever, and then play around with A/B testing and stuff from there. But in my experience, for most like SaaS companies, it's like they're just gaps and there's just holes and leaks. So just plug those first. Start there.
Sorry, were you going to say something, Logan?
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit because I think that there's a misconception on like what effectiveness is within marketing. That's the whole idea of moving people from one stage to the other in that life cycle. That's your goal. Like that, find those, whatever tool is recording that they went from a customer to a renewal. They expanded. They went from, like the onboarding email was successful. They accessed other features. Getting that data into whatever tool is recording your reporting, that's one of the most important parts. There's metrics around email, like open rate, click rate, which don't really tell the whole story. Plenty of people could open and click your email, but if they don't actually complete the tasks that you're asking them to complete, and it might take multiple emails within multiple reminders or follow-ups, it could be a really random email within a completely different journey that actually is that nudge. So the open rate of all of the emails combined within your onboarding sequence may have nothing to do with them buying it the first time. So the real like North Star on here is how many people actually did go from a lead to a customer, finding where that's recorded, getting it back to your system, and that's your true effectiveness of that journey. And then you can A/B split test the whole journey, the whole automation, and see, does this version of it lead to more conversions? I don't care about, is this one a better open rate or is it a better click-through rate? I just want to know about the conversions, because a long sequence may have crap open rate but convert better,
So it makes more sense to get that initial sequence in place across the customer journey. And then once you've got it, think, okay, now how can I test this against a different experience?
Yes.
Rather than like nitpicking every single email along the way.
Exactly. Like I've seen onboarding journeys take one of two approaches. One is like more of a time-based approach. Like it's a 30-day trial, therefore we want to hit them in a automated sequence based on that. The other one is more of a activity-based sequence that could go past the 30 days, or it could be completed very quickly based on how good the user is at just picking up the information, running with it. And so those will be very different conversion metrics based on the two. One may be more effective than the other. It's you get beyond just the normal A/B split testing of, was this an effective subject line for the email, or was the copy compelling? And it's more of like, which one actually converted better.
So the way is it? Am I interrupting anyone? My connection just got bad. No? Okay. Like the way to think about the emails that you send is time-based, transactional, and triggered. They all start with T. I'm gonna make a slide out of it one day. It's gonna look really pretty. But all of those are gonna be, people are gonna receive those emails, and they'll just, you want it to be like one cohesive stream of communication, but you may use different systems to send those. But it's also some SaaS trials or onboarding. It's like a combination of time-based and triggered. But I just say that as a way to think about it. And kind of another way to frame what Logan put too is like, instead of focusing on click rates and open rates and stuff, like it's focusing on the overall goal of that particular automation. So the goal of that lead nurturing thing is to get people to sign up for a trial. Like the goal of the free trial is to get them signed up for a customer. The goal of onboarding is to get them to be a subscriber for 3 months or whatever. And the goal of the NPS is to figure out how people think of you and then send reviews and stuff, or ask people for reviews based off of that. But thinking of it as that higher level goal, and then all of the click rates and open rates roll up into that goal.
Yep. There's, I know we're getting actually toward the end of our time, but there's another one that I think is really helpful for anyone who has a slightly more complex product. So one person said their SaaS is speech therapy software, and the person that's using it is not the one who signed up for the software in the first place to implement it at their practice, and so the end user is not reading those emails. So not just in speech therapy software, but across many different types of businesses, this can be the case, where the person who buys the software is not the same as the end users. So do you guys have any thoughts on how you would write for that reader and instructing that reader on how to make sure the user is successful? Like, what could that look like? Because that's a whole different puzzle, and it's a really, I think it's a fun puzzle to solve, but it can be overwhelming if you haven't done it before.
I always take enterprise cases like it's actually two different sets of onboarding. There's the one set that goes to the purchaser, and then there's another set that goes to the users, and that starts when they actually sign up for their account. So those are typically, yeah. So there's typically signing up for an account with an email address, so you have the opportunity to email them. I've been on that user end, my doctor's office's piece of software or whatever that I get a new account for and have to log into and figure out how to use. It endears me to the software as the user if I know a little bit more about it and can be properly onboarded. I realize I'm not the purchaser. I don't make the decision, but ultimately I fill out surveys and give my feedback to the doctor's office. And if all their customers are unhappy, if they're leaving because they have this clunky piece of software, then they're going to look at alternatives on their software side. And it might be a longer journey to get there, but that's why it's even more vital to speak to the actual users. I don't see it as, teaching the buyer how to talk to their users about the product, but actually how can we actually talk to the users?
So as the person who's running the platform, be finding a way to talk to both your purchaser and also your end user.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you there.
It depends on the software, I suppose, but
Sure.
For the majority of the time, I'd say that it's valuable to be in communication with both. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think?
I think I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole of the medical field, but it can be really difficult with HIPAA compliance on what you can even upload into the system,
right.
And how a tool can communicate to the end user of a medical procedure. But the real answer is, how do we coach the doctors or the speech therapists in order to get that information? Could you send them a template of a survey that they could forward to the patient? And then they receive that information. You say, how'd the survey go? And they don't have to share anything that's, confidential information. They can say it's teaching them and it's giving them tools to run their business more effectively. And you can kind of just step out as the marketer. We'd love to communicate to those people directly, but we understand based on the confidentiality laws, we can't do that. So we just coach you on how to do it the way we would do it.
Yeah. There's also the case then for in-app messaging too, right? So for the user, maybe you can communicate with them through the app, and versus the actual purchaser, you're communicating through email. So yeah, there's definitely other case like examples that don't necessarily have to deal with HIPAA compliance, but yeah, that is a tricky one. That medical field is always tricky when you're talking about how we interact with people.
Yeah. I like to think of like business owners on Yelp, because it's kind of like a two-sided marketplace. There's those who visit Yelp, and then there's the business owners who are promoting their business on Yelp. A good coaching email to a business owner when they've had it on for a while, or maybe when they get their first bad review, is just saying, well, we can't email that user on your behalf, but here's a template in order to understand what the bad experience was of the business, and like this is the best practices in order to get fewer bad reviews in the future or to learn and improve your business.
I'm looking at our time, and I'm realizing as we're getting to the end of the hour, folks have, all three of you, and of course everyone else who's in attendance, have days they probably need to get back to. But some things that, some I think kind of takeaways here for anyone who joined late or missed part of it was in terms of onboarding. If you don't have, if you know your onboarding emails could be performing better, Val, as you mentioned, take a look at whether your onboarding emails prime your reader for the end benefit, right? Like, are they going to get more time back in their lives? Are they going to be less stressed out? What's the end benefit? Or are your onboarding emails all about, welcome to Tool, please go visit your dashboard, which just gives them a task list. And then once you've got that sequence in place, with the framework that Brian and Logan came up with, and that I've abbreviated a bit to help our user list customers, once that's in place, then basically one by one, start looking at the next campaigns you can send to your customers throughout their life cycle. So once they've gone through onboarding, what can you do next to get them to upgrade to customers if they haven't already? Once they've upgraded, what can you do to get them to expand or to refer a friend or leave a review? And that file that I shared in the chat, since I couldn't screen share, I'll be sure to include in kind of the follow-up notes so that everyone has access to that. And for all three of you, where can we direct folks if they want to learn more about you or keep in touch?
I think Jane linked to Brian and Logan's website.
Did she
have the coolest name? Ottomate is not spelled like you would think it is. So I think Jane linked up that in the chat, but maybe she can do it again. Yeah, Jane. And then yeah, I'm at valgeisler.com.
Yay.
And yeah, Brian at Ottomate, Logan at automateagency.com, and we'll hook it up. Like, we'll send you our 20-step process and like give you we'll give you everything. Like, we want to be as generous as possible with all this stuff, and it's really fun. So we'll send you the process, we'll hook it up, email us.
All right. And on this end, if you want to keep in touch with Jane and with me, you can join the user list wait list. The product is in its earliest phase right now at userlist.io. So all of us can be accessed after this. To everyone who's been here, thank you so much. We know you've got lots going on in your lives and at work. So we hope to keep in touch and talk to you later.
Much love. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.